Christopher, do you still remember this?
Yo, now we're going down memory lane, eh? I think I was 15 years old or so there, long time ago.
Ja,
Fond memories.
toe was jy so, kyk hoe mooi vandaag. Dit was die eerste keer wat Christopher op die Oeverengelaar se cover was. Jy en 'n vriend by Harties.
Yeah, with Jason Stander.
Ja.
We were still learning how to carp fish back then. Had some help from him, Loki, who came and gave us some lessons out there on the island.
Ja. Ja. And you did well. You had a couple of nice fish.
Yeah, I think we had about 400 kilos for
Yeah.
that 72-hour practice session. It was a great fishing memory.
Okay, so starting off with 400 kilos at Harties, working up to 1.1 ton at Bloemhof. From a developmental point of view, what do you as an angler have to go through to get to a level where you can actually catch more than a ton?
Sure, it's a good question. Firstly, you need to have a great peg mate. So I definitely want to call out and shout out Hakim, my partner. Would have never done it without him. So really appreciate him.
But I believe on a more personal note, I believe he was full of nonsense. This whole competition here, he had a bit of a bug.
Oh, shame, man. He was a real fighter. He was sick in the tournament on 2 of the nights, but he pushed through, and I was really proud of him for not giving up. We would have not achieved what we had achieved if he hadn't pushed through.
Yeah, but having that type of tummy bug and have to fish for 72 hours takes a bit of guts, eh?
I tell you, I don't know how he did it. He found energy from somewhere.
Because jy word mos so lam en tam as jy elke halfuur moet toilet toe gaan en how do you get yourself through that? I mean, you lose a lot of hydration and all of that.
Obviously, it's very depleting. So you need to make sure the fluids keep going in and so on. But I think just his determination and strong spirit is what pulled him through. I think many people would have given up a long time ago.
Yeah, I can imagine. Okay, so let's get back to the question.
Yeah,
so what brings you to that from a developmental point of view as an angler? And you said the first thing is you need the right peg mate. Okay, so now I've got the right peg mate. What else do I need?
You need to meet the right people along the way. You will never get to that level of the sport if you don't have people who are willing to teach you, as well as a platform on which you can practice and be developed and so on. So I've been super privileged, obviously, with my father, who has taught me a lot. But if it wasn't, for him alone, all the other people, great people I've met along the way have taught me so much. And being given exposure, I was really, really fortunate to be exposed to things that most people my age were not yet exposed to. I went to my first World Championships as a spectator. It was before the time of technical advisors and SASAC members and so on. So being involved in the team dynamic and seeing what the sport is about, sharing information, observing, learning, this is definitely super important. But in terms of getting to the over a ton mark, that comes down to having somebody teach you about systems, having a lot of experience so that you make less mistakes. And obviously you need the right strategy to achieve something like that. And you need a little bit of luck. You need to be in the right place at the right time, in the right weather condition. And this tournament, although we had some challenges with rising water levels, we had a perfect weather pattern and a perfect moon pattern for the event, which I think is evident in the result.
There was another peg that was close to a ton as well. So there were enough fish to be caught. That's from all the other environmental factors point of view.
For sure.
You're talking about systems. There's two things that you mentioned that is important to me. The one is you said you must make less mistakes, and the other one is you need to understand systems. Tell us a little bit about systems that make something like this possible.
Sure. So from a systems point of view, you need to be thinking about how do I save time? Because this time compounds over a 72-hour period of time. If you end up saving 2 minutes on somebody else, over that duration of time, that number of casts, that many fish, 2 minutes turn into hours. So you really need to pay attention to how far, say for example, the place you're baiting up is from the place that you're casting.
So ergonomics, so how you set up your camp.
Sure, how you set up your camp is crucial.
How do you set up your camp?
When I get to the water, and this is actually a really good example because we had a difficult type of peg with a difficult type of water condition. With the water level being so high, getting in and out of the water was a challenge.
Big step.
A big step. So I saw there was an area on the left-hand side where somebody had made a step previously. So I knew I would be going down that step from the start. And the right-hand side, it sort of wasn't a big step. It sloped down into the water. So it was much easier to land fish on the right. So I knew that I wanted to set myself up to catch more fish on the right. Still, obviously, you have to catch fish on the left. But even then, I thought about how do I set up close to that step that my two entry points to the water are close to the points where my rods are being set up. And I think about that and maybe waste what some people might say, wasting 15 minutes of time, thinking these things through before I put my camp up.
Okay, so the time that you lose in the beginning, you make up exponentially later on.
For sure, especially because a decision like that's not going to be unmade. Once the camp is up, it's up.
As jy opgestel het, dan sê as jy penne geslaan het, dan sit jy.
If you lose 15 minutes because you start 15 minutes late, which you shouldn't do, we still manage to start on time. But I would rather start 20 minutes late when the bite tempo is low, the fish are not really on, it's the start of the competition, and set myself up that towards the end, when the bite time is 3 minutes or something like that, that I'm set up to optimize that situation.
Okay. You also spoke about mistakes. What type of mistakes would you like to get rid of?
Sure. So in our sport, sleep deprivation is a big factor. So say, for example, my choice of landing net. Going for a landing net that my fish's fins are not going to get stuck in, so that I don't cut my hands that end up swearing and getting infected and, slow me down later in the competition. Fighting fish. It's easy to get caught up in the moments, especially when the fish are biting on such a high tempo, that you think now is the time to force the fish. And, if I throw in again, I'm immediately going to catch another one. Where rather being patient, taking your time, doing the right thing the whole time.
Understanding that the fish on the line is the most important one.
Doesn't help if the rod next to you is running. If both of you are in the water catching a fish and you lose this fish because you're chasing the fish that's running on the bank. So you need to remember every time the fish on the line only counts once it's in the net. Doesn't mean anything that you've got a rod running and you're forcing this fish and you drop it.
I gather that you will have to force fish a little bit to get to the numbers. Now, here comes, I believe, a balance. Now, it's almost like muscle memory. How do you get to that point where you are used to, this is how hard I can pull?
I think in this particular event, there's a really good example. We lost the first 4 fish that we hooked. Then we got better and better at landing them. And a lot of it came down to how do I strike the rod? How do I fight the fish? I talk sometimes about like walking the dog. Rather let the fish come to you than you pulling the fish into you. And that was really important in the beginning of the competition. Then you begin to get a feeling of how hard can I play these fish, because now you've lost a couple. So you begin to feel where's the limit. And once you hit that sweet spot is where you optimize that.
Do you think that there is that fishing fitness is a real thing?
Definitely. When you're doing as much work as we did on this particular competition, I mean, we caught 361 fish. We fed 200 kilograms of bait. The amount of costs and physical exertion that you're putting in definitely catches up with you. And your back will take a serious beating. I did exercise leading up to this event to prepare myself for this, because I felt it on last year's essays. For the first time ever. I suppose I'm getting a bit older now.
Catching up with you.
Yeah, and as you begin to fatigue, especially if you're fishing at distance, 110 meters or whatever, that type of distance. I personally had this problem when I get tired that I throw like a low punchy cast. I'm wasting time bringing that out, resetting that rod. So I wanted to make sure that didn't happen again. And definitely this time around was much better.
How important with the way that you feed, and we'll get to that detail a little bit later as well. But how important is it to actually hit the mark when you feed such a lot in a little bit of a wider area? And if you are 2 or 3 or 5 meters to the left or not really there, how important is that?
I think it's really important to have distance control. And throughout the competition, you will play with distances. I like to play with small changes in distance. And you'll definitely find a number that the fish are on. And that'll be something between fairly behind your feed, just behind your feed, in your feed, in front of your feed, this type of dynamic where finding the fish becomes important. And yeah, I think that would probably be my biggest.
So then a meter or 2 meters can make a difference.
Definitely. Definitely can.
And if you don't hit the spot, will you take it out and recast, or will you leave it? Kom ek los hom net so rukkie.
Yeah, sure. So different anglers are different. My dad will tell you sometimes he used to get frustrated with me because I'm a very particular type of person when it comes to throwing a rod, hitting the clip, knowing it's exactly where I think that it is. So like say, for example, on my peg, normally what I like to do is somebody's casting, whether that's me or that's Hakim. That person will then know the exact spacing of each rod based on the landmarks, will know exactly how they hit that clip, that they hit it precisely the same every time. And I just don't feel confident. If I've just had a fish in 6 minutes, I threw it exactly at that target, I hit the clip in exactly this way.
You're happy with it?
I'm happy with it.
If it doesn't land there, you'll take it out.
If it throws out again and I've got a baited hook link and it's ready to go, I'll pull it out and throw it again. Because mentally, I'm thinking about what's going on under the water and exactly how my rods are lying at this time. Or even if I throw a rod on top of another rod, or it's just too close to that rod, and I'm not comfortable with the spacing, I'll take it out and throw it again.
Okay, so confidence is important with where it's lying.
Sure.
Okay. Well, when we get back, we'll talk a little bit closer to how you did it.